Want to come over this side?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, was that all your devices I've just moved?
So your recording device?
No, it looks like the remotes. Hey, well, kia ora, good afternoon, everyone. Can I just say thank you so much for coming out here on a Sunday afternoon. Look, it's great to be at the Auckland Central Police Station. We've got our fantastic Police Minister, Mark Mitchell, with us. We also have our Police Assistant Commissioner, Sam Hoyle, and we also have our MSD Regional Commissioner for Auckland South and Regional Public Service Commissioner, Jules Lynch, who's also representing her colleague, Mark Goldsmith, who's been a key part of this team. And of course, importantly, we've got Viv Beck, who's the CEO of Heart of the City, making sure that we've got good activity happening in downtown Auckland CBD. Look, Mark and I have come here today to talk with police and also with MSD about the work that they've been doing in Auckland CBD as part of a cross-government approach to tackling crime and antisocial behaviour that we've seen in the city. Our central cities, frankly, should be places that are great places to live and to work, but in recent years they have become hotspots for crime and antisocial behaviour, and in Auckland, businesses and residents in particular have suffered as violent and retail crime has soared in the CBD. MSD, police, kāinga ora and community providers have actually come together and been working together to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour and to reduce reliance on emergency housing in central Auckland as well. And this new joined-up approach is certainly helping more people get the services that they need. And as they've done that, we've actually seen crime in the CBD area start to drop. And so from July 1 this year to September 10 this year, across the Auckland City policing area, 97 people have been referred for accommodation, addiction and family wellbeing support. And since May, there's been a 68% drop in the number of people in emergency housing in the Auckland CBD, going from 53 down to 17, enabling the exit of 2 emergency motels. And now we're starting to see some improvement on the ground. We've seen a 35% drop in total crime across the CBD. We've seen a 22% reduction in serious assaults, and we've seen a 50% reduction in retail crime as well. So we know that there's a lot more for us to do, but that's certainly an encouraging change from what we were experiencing. I just want to say, on a sort of related note, I have to say our police do an exceptionally good job. Last night I had the huge privilege of being on a ride-along with police across Auckland City from 6 o'clock to 1 a.m. this morning, and it was a real privilege to see our police in action. I have huge respect and admiration for what they do, but to actually see them and their professionalism in a number of areas, as I went to road policing, to central coordination, to the custody units, to the Eagle operation, and to see frontline police officers going out and about for their night shifts, it was quite something really good to see it. And I think as a leader, for us sitting in our offices in Wellington, it's so important to get out of those offices and actually go see it firsthand and see the front line. I've always been a big believer of that in my business background and certainly in my political career as well. So I just want to say, our police are doing a fantastic job. Certainly the increased police presence in the Auckland CBD is having a very positive effect as we try and improve law and order across New Zealand. And I really appreciated them taking time and letting me be able to come along and be able to see the operations up close and personal in the way that I was able to do so. What they do is, I think, much more than just going after the offenders and locking them up when a crime has been committed. They're also preventing crime, and the fact that they are working and partnering so well with government agencies like MSD, like kāinga ora, and like Heart of the City, I think is a really good example of what we want to see a lot more of. So we are encouraged. These are some fantastic results. There's some improvement. We are making the Auckland CBD safer. We know there's a lot more for us to do. But with that, I want to pass over to Mark to pass a few more of his remarks before Viv's talks as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Prime Minister. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the first time we've had a Prime Minister go out on a late shift and night shift with our frontline staff, and I know how much they appreciated that. Look, I just want to, we've got Viv here, we have Jules and Sam. I just want to say that it became really obvious to me as the incoming Minister that the police couldn't fix this problem that we had in our Auckland CBD by themselves. It meant all of us, all the stakeholders working together, coming up with an aligned plan and strategy. And so for the last 3 or 4 months we've been doing that. We meet on a regular basis and we're starting to see the results of that. And it's the results of a lot of hard work from a lot of people. Government agencies, residents and ratepayers groups, Heart of the City, business associations, CPNZ, our Maori wardens and our social service providers in the city. and now we're starting to see some promising results. We still have a lot of work to do, but we are now travelling in the right direction, and I have so much confidence in the people that are now have come together and working together that we can continue to drive towards making this one of the safest cities in the world, and somewhere that visitors first arrive in New Zealand. It's often the first place that they touch is our city. For the residents that live in here, for the shopkeepers and the retail and the business owners that come in every day, and we want to bring people back into the city. We want to make it a thriving hub for us as Aucklanders again, and it's really important we do that. And I feel that we're moving in the right direction. When you see that there's been a 22% reduction in serious assaults, there's been an 18% reduction in serious assaults causing harm, there's been a 35% reduction in crime, and a 50% reduction in retail crime. We are moving in the right direction. Any questions? Oh, Viv, would you like to make some comments?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Just acknowledge the Prime Minister and Minister of Police. We are absolutely delighted to see this commitment from government to support a cross-agency response to the issues that we have seen with some dismay, I have to say, through the COVID period. And you'll be well aware that Heart of the City has lobbied hard for this. We always felt it was more than a police job. We did see a need for coordinated cross-agency mental health, addiction, housing, as well as a significant increase in police presence. I do want to acknowledge Sam and the police team, and actually Jules and the Ministry of Social Development as well, because we have worked really closely together through the COVID period and done everything we could locally, but we absolutely needed the commitment from central government. And I really think today is an important day because, full credit to the Minister of Police. He has actually pulled everyone together, and we actually see it working. So we know that we've got a way to go, and we know that there will be people who aren't yet seeing it, but we also know that the commitment to the extra police and the people out there helping people be housed and helping them get the support they need is exactly what we need. So I'm really delighted to be here and to acknowledge the work that is happening and what can happen from here on in, because we want to be a vibrant, safe, 24/7 international city. That's what we're aspiring to be, and we're on the road. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Well, listen, can I just say, why don't we take some questions now, if we can keep it to this issue, and then if there's some more general questions you want to ask as well, then I'll let the others go so they can get on with the rest of their afternoon, and their weekend would be good. Any questions?
Yeah, Mark,
Yes.
22% reduction you're seeing in serious assaults, does that hold up in the latter half of the year as well?
Well, we want that trend to continue. It's not easy; it's hard work. But when you compare the first half of this year to the first half of last year, we've seen a 22% reduction in not just serious assaults, but also an 18% reduction in serious assaults causing injury. That's people that are no longer being hurt or injured through violence and unsocial behaviour in the city.
Yeah, are you seeing it increase or decrease then in the later half of the year when it comes to serious?
No, we want to keep that trend going, without a doubt.
Are you seeing it trending downwards though?
Well, we'll have that data towards the end of the year, and we'll share that with you when we have it. Yeah.
How does this compare to the rest of Auckland? Because this is great for Auckland CBD. We still do see a lot of crime in Auckland. Are you seeing the same trend of it going down?
What I'd say is I can probably talk to, certainly violent crime across New Zealand. It's something that we are monitoring. It's one of our 9 goals, as you know, is to have a 20,000 reduction in violent crime incidents. And I'd still say we've got a lot of work to do in the violent crime space. But again, we've got a series of things up and going in a way that give us hope and encouragement. So we've got a great example here in the Auckland CBD. We're hearing positive feedback about police out on the beat in Wellington and certainly in Christchurch as well, and the way that the agencies are collaborating to work together on some of these targets and goals. Because we're now getting, it gets to a place where you've got people with very complex, challenged needs that actually require a multi-agency approach, and that's what I think we've seen work so successfully here. But I wouldn't want to say that we have cracked this at any stretch of the imagination. I think at the national level we've still got a lot of work to do. And of course there's a lot of work to do in the family violence space. There's a lot of work to do in the serious violent crime as well. a lot of our actions are starting to take root. So, we've started from day one, and we've passed our gang law legislation. That is important because we have essentially 1/4 of 1% of the population, causing up to 1/5 of some serious violent crime, and we need to be able to crack down on that. So those things are happening. Our serious young offender military academies, and the work that we're doing based off the LSV program and putting those values into those programs are, I think, pilots up and running. We've got a number of other legal changes and sentencing laws about to kick off. So, we know we've got a lot more work to do. I just wouldn't want to pretend that we have solved this problem, certainly at a national level. I think we've got a lot more work to do. But we've got some encouraging signs, and that's what we've got to do, is we've set ourselves a goal. We've set ourselves a target. The Minister, and working with the agency CEOs, come and report back to me regularly on those. I have a regular session on that every couple of weeks about progress against those goals. We're going to continue to report our progress quarterly to the New Zealand people. Sometimes it'll go up, sometimes it'll go down, but we want to be on track to get to ourselves to that 6-year goal that we've set ourselves, to get ourselves to a different place so that New Zealanders can actually feel safe in their homes, their businesses, communities, actually see it for real.
The idea of feeling safe, that's not just about stats, is it? In the last few weeks there have been homicides in Blockhouse Bay, Onehonga, Mount Wellington, Pakuranga. People may not feel safe hearing that on the news night after night.
No, but I think what we've got to do is make sure that we set ourselves a big ambition, as we have done around violent crime, around serious young offenders as well. We know that they're big, hairy, audacious, aspirational, ambitious goals, as they should be, but they are the things that New Zealanders care about. They want to see less violent crime in New Zealand. They want to see less serious young offenders causing mayhem as well. And we have put in place a series of actions. Now, not all of it comes off. You don't go correct 6 years of mismanagement and soft on-crime policies in 9 to 10 months, but we are working incredibly hard to make sure that we put our actions in place, get the legislation in place, so the tools and the powers are there for the police. Likewise, we're working on our social investment agency. We've made it a central agency at the budget. That means that we can get on the causes of crime as well, and we work both of those angles at the same time.
Just another question on that, Prime. So it might also be maybe for Viv, because I understood that some of this cross-agency work has been going for some years, in fact. Is that right?
Well, there's been bits of, yes, I mean, there has been. So some of this cross-agency teams have been meeting and talking together. What we want them to do is to actually, some of it works well, some of it frankly doesn't work well up and down the country. And it's a conversation that I've been very involved in with the agency CEOs over recent months as we've been going through our targets and seeing what progress we are or are not making. What we want is not just meetings and lovely hooies and discussions. We actually want the outcomes and the results. And that's the conversation that we're having about how do we use these teams to get much more empowered action and decisions being taken locally to improve those results around crime, around school attendance, around emergency housing, around people coming off welfare. And we need to be able to work together because these are hard and challenging and tractable problems that we've dealt with in New Zealand for a long period of time and absolutely failed to deliver different outcomes. And we want more boldness from those interagency teams, more try things that are different, work up the programs that are working, put more resources behind those, stop the dumb ones, stop the ones that aren't working. There's plenty of money in the system. It's actually about making sure we get results. That's all we're interested in, is outcomes and results. How we deliver them, we're less hung up on. I want to get outcomes delivered because New Zealanders are over it. We've had lots of people having lots of meetings, lots of talking, lots of bureaucracy involved in lovely conversations, but no results. And here you have an example where the agencies have come together. The situation was a bad situation for the last 6 years, a deteriorating situation. They've come together, chosen to do things differently as a group of people, using their respective skills, and actually, as a result, have got a different set of outcomes. That's what we're interested in seeing, outcomes.
One of those people perhaps give us an example of what's been done differently?
I'll let Mark talk to that because he's been the one that's put it together.
Well, I think the clear example is what we're doing here in the Auckland CBD, is that we've had Kaingaora, we've had MSD, we've had police around the table, along with our residents and ratepayers groups, Heart of the City and business associations, our Maori wardens, our CPNZ patrollers, our social agencies, including the City Mission, and they were all operating in vacuums. And now those conversations, there's a joined up approach, there's a common strategy, we're all aligned with that, and as a result, after our first meeting, a report back, and it's a shame, it's great to have Jules here, but I want to acknowledge too the work that Mark Goldsmith has done. all of a sudden we're getting people into appropriate housing. We've shut down 2 motels that are no longer used for emergency housing in the CBD, which was creating all sorts of antisocial behaviour and issues inside the CBD. So there's the police and MSD are working very closely together and are joined up.
No, if I could maybe talk to emergency housing, because that is something that we've done differently. You know, we've had people saying, let's put people into emergency housing for a decade now, and we've ended up having families living permanently in motel accommodation across New Zealand. Since we've come to office, you know, we've decided to do it very differently, and we now have said we are going to prioritise families that have been in that emergency housing and put them at the number 1 onto the list to get into a state or a social housing situation. So we have moved 540 households in a relatively short period of time, over 1,000 kids, out of motels into social transitional housing. That is a good thing. That is an example of what I'm talking about. We can keep having the same conversations over and over and over again, thinking we're talking about a problem, or we actually do something differently about it. And on emergency housing, we've done something very, very different about it, where we have now 80% of people having moved out of motels across New Zealand and actually put them into social and private rental and proper housing. And that's an example. Well, we have been able to take 80%. You know, we've had 80% of the people that have come out of emergency housing been able to land into the private rental market. And also social housing, often with community housing providers. We've put another 1,500 places into there in the budget, and then also obviously into state housing, prioritising families in the waitlist system as well. And that just means we're getting households with young kids in particular, and we're prioritising them and saying, look, the answer is we can keep talking about it and you can keep intellectualising it as much as you like, but at the end of the day, we are moving families, because kids being raised in motels is not a future. And essentially that's what's happened here, is there's been a really concerted effort in the emergency housing space, and that's led to the 2 motels closing down here in the CBD.
You've also noted a 68% drop in the number of emergency housing in the city. But I mean, how will you ensure that those people and those families don't just end up on the streets?
Well, that's what we're saying, is the agencies are following through those cases and those families at a very detailed level, with more intensity from our agencies collectively on the emergency housing target. Why has that happened? Because we've asked for a target in 6 years' time. I want a 75% reduction in people being in emergency housing. Now, we're making fantastic progress with that. It's one of our highly successful progresses since we've changed the approach of how we're doing it. But everyone's focused on the goal and the target, and now as a result the agencies are paying more attention and actually talking to those individual families and getting them out of that situation into the right places. So as I said, of the reduction that we've seen, which is over, I think 540 households that actually have gone through to social housing, and that's been a good example of what we've done.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'm just trying to understand the link that you're drawing between helping people get into the housing and the idea of people feeling safe in, say, the CBD. Is the government saying that a lot of the crime that has been caused is from people who haven't got a home to live in?
No, what we're saying is that you have to understand that you've got people who have got very complex and challenged needs. And when you actually start to set the 9 better public service targets that we have, yes, you can get some way down the road with good management and better execution than the previous lot, which wouldn't be hard, frankly. But the next step is actually dealing with these issues for these individuals in a very intensive kind of way. And what we're saying is, on emergency housing, we've set ourselves a goal. We've got some, we want to make sure people are not raising kids in motels. We've chosen to prioritise that. We're doing something about it. But likewise, we're also making sure people are getting the addiction support that they need to get. We're making sure that people are actually, that the police are highly visible and actually talking to retailers who are feeling fearful in their own shops, and making sure that their presence is actually leading to lower levels of crime as well.
People on the street, living on the street, is that being the...
Well, there's a whole range of issues in the Auckland CBD, but what we've got is a whole range of agencies with different expertise and competencies working together, playing their position on the team, using their expertise on the team, being coordinated by the Minister here, Mark Mitchell, but actually everybody actually making their contribution and doing what they uniquely can do to help solve the problem, but all working together to get the outcomes that we want to see.
Prime Minister, is there anything that really stood out to you last night when you did that drive?
Yeah, again, the total professionalism of our police, the culture within the police, by the way in which they support and look after each other. They deal with stuff that I think a lot of New Zealanders probably are naively and blissfully unaware of what they deal with. Oh, I don't want to talk about some of the stuff, but there are some pretty horrific situations where that young police officers are going to, and the way that the police wrap their arms around each other and support each other in very extreme jobs is really admirable. It's a great culture in that regard. The way that they have families around, each of these officers have their families, their relationships that actually support them in these jobs as well. But a couple of things that stood out for me. One is that a lot of our police officers are getting caught up into mental health call-outs, and that, of course, is something that Minister Mitchell and Minister Ducey have been thinking very deeply about, because here's the reality of it. A mental health call-out comes out, someone actually is in a state of distress, needs a mental health expert to be there with them. Unfortunately, police get sucked into that. They then accompany the individual to the hospital. They then end up waiting for them to get mental health services, and of course they are then taken out of action and not able to get on with the job that they need to do about keeping the community safe with respect to crime. So that's one of the big consistent themes of where their workload goes to these days. And I just think also the constant application and use of technology in particular to help them fight crime is something that we've got to continue those conversations as well. But total respect, total admiration for our officers, incredible people.
Are you able to disclose if that happened last night? Did you bear witness to a mental health call-out?
I'm not going to talk about the specifics of it, would be inappropriate, but I just say to you, I got to see the District Command Centre, I got to see the Emergency Communication Centre where the dispatch 111 calls come in, where they're dispatched out. I got to see road policing. I got to see young officers going out into the community for the night shift. I got to see the Eagle operation, obviously, and I got to see custody and in the cells, and what was happening as people were being processed over the course of the evening as well.
You mentioned that the big goal, of course, is to people to feel safe, and there's still a way to go.
Yep.
So if a tourist gets off a cruise ship right now and walks up Queen Street at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, how safe do you think they're entitled to feel?
Well, we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel welcome to New Zealand, and we want their first impression to be a positive one.
Right now,
what I can tell you is they're feeling a lot safer than they were before this government came to power. And isn't that a great thing, Simon? Isn't that fantastic? I look forward to seeing your wonderful report celebrating how fantastic it is. No, I mean, it is a fantastic achievement and a lot of hard work from individuals, because it's easy to be a critic and take a shot, but the bottom line is the situation was bad. We're improving the situation. We're nowhere near where we want to be. There's a long way for us to go. But I think it's important to acknowledge we are trying to do things differently to get a different set of outcomes. And these people here are working incredibly hard. The person management required to make these interventions with people who've got complex challenge needs is really challenging and difficult, and we've wrestled with that as a country for a long period of time. But we believe in the social investment approach. We believe very strongly in making sure that we enforce rights and responsibilities, and I think that the agencies working together as they have, so that we've actually got all the waka going in the right direction rather than in lots of different directions, is actually what we're trying to achieve here.
I feel like we had a social cohesion breakdown in Auckland in the past few years.
I think we had a government, frankly, soft on crime. I think when your only target is reducing the prison population and you don't set targets and goals for crime, around violent crime, serious young offending, you send a message right from the top that that's unacceptable. If you think about the language that we have talked about, we are going to harass gangs and make their life difficult. Why are we doing it? Because 1/4 of 1% drives up to 1/5 of the serious violent crime in this country. And I'm sorry, we're not beat around the bush about it. We're going to be tough on gangs. We've seen the evidence of how that works overseas. We're going to bring that here to New Zealand. That's what we are doing. So lo and behold, when you see police take out the whole Comancheros in Christchurch, hallelujah, fantastic. Isn't that a fantastic outcome? That is a brilliant outcome from our police. When you've seen how police have been managing tangi since our government came to power, exceptional. They've done an exceptionally good job about it. You've seen the progress on boy races. So a government, I believe, from the top, sets the tone, and as a result, that enables and empowers and gives the police the tools and the support that they need to get on and do their job. And we also are a government from the top that wants to work really hard on social investment. We know we've got people with challenged, complex needs that need really powerful, targeted interventions. And as a result, we're working hard to make sure that we can bring that thinking from not just theory, but into practice and into actually results that matter. So I think that's what matters from the top.
Sure, I will go to Mark.
Yeah.
Labour was criticised for sort of cherry-picking data when it came to police
Yeah.
controls. Would you say that this is the same thing with this announcement? Is that fair to say?
Not at all. Labor tried to mislead not only you, the media, but the public as well, by cherry-picking numbers. And you cannot, in our view, you not tell the full story by doing that. Quite simply, our measurement is from 1 January 23 to 31 July 23 to 1 January 24 to 31 July 24. That is the way to compare data. And the numbers that we've given you today are quite simply that comparison. Labor have been caught out, and I'd have to say that probably now, certainly any numbers that they put forward around police and crime in this country will have to be looked at closely and verified. The other thing that I do want to say, just in relation to our beat officers out on the street now, I want to acknowledge them and the outstanding work they've done, and they have been set targets by by police, and they've been achieving those targets. And the feedback that I've had is that they are thoroughly enjoying it, because often the nature of police work is negative with the things that they have to deal with, as been highlighted by the Prime Minister, who was out with them last night. But they are enjoying the positive public interaction and feedback that they're getting. And so for me, and I agree, is that yes, Simon, probably if you compare someone arriving in Auckland now to what it was 12 months ago, they're going to have a better experience. But we know we've still got a lot of work to do.
Great.
Are you available to answer 2 questions on other?
Sure, yes, I'll let these fine people go so they don't get caught up in the topic. But feel free to talk to them directly as you need to today as well. Yeah.
Just a question from a colleague. So, the allegations raised by Stubb about Anthony Ozzy Melbourne, were you aware of that in the National Party, and what's your reaction?
Completely unaware of those allegations. They're very serious allegations. I am aware that they're being investigated through the appropriate channels, which is good news. But I'd also just say for anyone who has any further information to talk to the police about that.
And what's your message to the complainants, if you have one?
Well, my message through certainly the abuse and state care right from the beginning has been come forward with your stories to police. In this case, these are serious allegations. They're going to be investigated by the right channels. But importantly, I encourage anyone to come forward to the police.
Prime Minister, I just have one more question as well.
Sure.
Obviously, we saw the news this morning that John Bishop, Chris's father, passed away. Have you been in touch with Mr. Bishop lately?
Look, it's an incredibly sad situation. John was a great. He was a fantastic journalist. He was in the press gallery, well known, loved politics, incredibly proud of Chris. Chris and him had have a very close relationship, and so it's a sad time for the family. Chris will make sure he gets as much support as possible at this time. But I met John several times and really loved him as well. He was a great man, and a great enthusiast, and a character who understood political life and understood the vagaries of Wellington incredibly well. So we're supporting him and his family. Yep. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.